2 a.m. The faint click of the dorm room door unlocking sliced through the silence. Then, distinct footsteps, padding softly across the floor. But my roommates were all supposed to be in bed. I barely cracked open my bed curtains, peering through the sliver of space. A pair of eyes, pupils dilated to an unsettling degree, stared back at me. He was fixated, his gaze burning into mine. Hot, rancid breath washed over my face. Heh, did I wake you? Due to university expansion, I was relocated to a newly constructed dorm building. It stood isolated on the periphery of campus, sparsely populated. With students scattered across different departments, most floors barely had 1 or 2 rooms occupied. There was only one dorm supervisor, a perpetually drowsy woman who seemed to exist in a permanent state of semi-sleep. Sometimes, the thought crept into my mind, if something truly terrible happened here, would anyone even notice? My apprehension wasn't unfounded. Besides the occasional vagrant scaling the walls to sneak onto campus, I also had the misfortune of sharing a room with 3 complicated individuals, Mia, Tiffany, and Fiona. Their relationships were a tangled web of animosity. Mia and Fiona were classic frenemies, saccharine sweet to each other's faces, while sharpening their knives behind their backs. However, their fragile alliance solidified into an impenetrable fortress when it came to targeting Lily. Lily, for her part, was problematic in her own way. Cripplingly insecure, obsessively disciplined, and a textbook people-pleaser. For girls, 6 different group chats, not an exaggeration in the slightest. I loathed their intricate, toxic dynamics and opted out entirely, deleting myself from all dorm-related groups. I adopted a routine of escaping to the library at dawn, only returning to the dorm half an hour before lights out. Anything to minimize interaction with the trio. "You're still not back?" A message from Mia flashed on my phone as I walked back to the dorm. She acted as if I was a direct threat to her scholarship, constantly badgering me to return earlier. "Almost there," I replied curtly. Reaching the door, I pushed it open. A takeout container sailed through the air, landing directly in front of me with a wet thud. I recoiled just in time, but scalding broth still splashed onto my skirt. I frowned, annoyance tightening my jaw. Tiffany's voice dripped with displeasure. "Lily. I specifically asked for mild spice, no scallions. What is this monstrosity? Are you trying to set my mouth on fire?" Lily looked ashen, her complexion pale, yet she still mumbled apologetically, "I'll tell the owner to put even less chili next time." Tiffany remained petulant. "Well, you better remember next time." "Clean up the floor," I stated flatly to Tiffany. Tiffany, engrossed in peeling an apple, waved a dismissive hand. "Lily, go tidy up." Lily, her face etched with discomfort, looked at me apologetically. "I have a bit of a stomachache, could I clean it up later?" "No, the smell is too strong. Clean it now and take it to the trash outside." With that, I retreated to my desk, poured hot water into my foot bath, plugged in my headphones, and immersed myself in a drama, soaking my feet and effectively tuning out the dorm room drama. Lily was gone for an unusually long time to dispose of the trash. Lights out arrived, and she still hadn't returned. "Probably went scavenging for bottles again after throwing out the trash," Mia snickered from the darkness. "Honestly, I feel sorry for her. So broke, why even bother with university? She should just be working." Tiffany chimed in, dripping with sarcasm, "Oh, Mia, don't be like that. She's the only university student from her village, you know. She's practically royalty." They dissolved into giggles, their voices laced with cruel mockery aimed at Lily. Knock, knock, knock. A timid rapping on the door. Lily's voice, laced with a tremor, filtered through the wood. "I forgot my keys, could someone open the door for me?" The previously boisterous chatter of Tiffany and Mia abruptly ceased. Silence descended. "It's really cold outside." Lily's voice wavered, trembling slightly. "I'm not wearing a coat." I sighed, a puff of exasperated air, and threw back my blanket, dragging myself out of bed. Before she could finish the word, I turned away from her. Remember your keys next time. Otherwise, I won't open the door again. Click. 2 a.m. The faintest click of a lock being picked jolted me awake. Distinct footsteps echoed from the hallway. Initially, I assumed it was one of the three heading to the restroom. But then, realization dawned. No. Because the footsteps were coming from outside the room. 1 step, 2 steps. Closer, clearer, more defined. Someone had entered the room. Who is it? Can you walk quieter? Ugh, so annoying. Tiffany grumbled irritably. Heh. A low chuckle. A man's voice. My blood ran cold. What are you laughing at? Psycho. Tiffany's voice, laced with sleep-induced annoyance, trailed off. The next second, a raw note of terror ripped through the quiet. Who are you? What do you want? Heh, pretty girl. Then, the rustling of bedclothes, the creak of the bed frame, the sickening rip of fabric. Tiffany's scream tore through the silence, a desperate plea for help. Help me. Somebody, help me. Her cries were choked off, muffled by a hand, devolving into broken, desperate whimpers. Like a flute, shattered and ruined. No one beyond these walls would hear her desperate cries. But we three, inside this room, remained frozen, as if bound by some unspoken pact. Utter silence. A silence as profound and heavy as snow blanketing a mountain. I bit down hard on my blanket, knuckles white, praying, desperately hoping, that he would simply finish, and leave. Through the narrow gap in my curtains, I risked a glance. But something far more horrific unfolded. I saw him raise Tiffany's fruit knife. Thwack. The sickening sound of metal piercing flesh. My eyes widened, pupils dilating in terror. Every drop of blood in my veins seemed to freeze solid. Tiffany was dead. The chilling certainty of it hit me like a physical blow. Then, I heard him move, the rustle of fabric as he stepped off the bed. Footsteps again, resuming their macabre rhythm. Accompanied by the soft, sickening drip, of blood, a gruesome counterpoint. A death march. A man materialized in the dim moonlight filtering through the window. Not fat, but tall, lanky, with a wild mane of unkempt hair, like a homeless man. He paused at the bed opposite mine, Mia's bed. Heh, don't pretend to be asleep. I know you heard everything. Mia, her face a mask of abject terror, began to tremble uncontrollably, bowing her head in a silent, desperate plea. Please, let me go. I won't say anything. I promise. But he offered no mercy, no reprieve. Thwack. Then, slowly, deliberately, he turned. My eyes locked onto his. A pair of pupils, dilated to a monstrous size. A terrifying, unnatural expansion. In that instant, I knew. He was lost in the bloodlust. He was consumed by the kill. One person's blood, drip. Two people's blood, drip. In the pale moonlight, a gruesome trio of sounds. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat threatening to explode. Sweat slicked my skin, trickling down my spine, soaking into the sheets. My mind raced, desperately searching for an escape, a plan, anything. But before I could grasp a single coherent thought, the bloodied knife was raised, its tip glinting inches from my face. He leaned in, his hot, foul breath washing over me. His eyes, those monstrously dilated pupils, burned into mine. Heh, did I wake you? Thwack. I bolted upright in bed, gasping for breath. The sudden movement sent my foot bath flying, water splashing across the floor. Ugh. My delivery. Mia's voice, laced with annoyance, cut through the lingering fear. She was picking up a fallen package. Watch it, will you? What time is it? I demanded, my voice still ragged with residual terror, ignoring her complaint. Not even 11, Mia replied, slightly startled by my abruptness. What's wrong with you? The water in the foot bath was still lukewarm. Through my headphones, the actors in the drama continued their dialogue, oblivious to the horror that had just gripped me. Tiffany was still peeling her apple, Mia was still glued to her game. It had been a dream. Just a nightmare. Nothing, I mumbled, trying to steady my breathing. Just a bad dream. You scared me half to death, yelling like that, Mia grumbled, returning to her game. I switched off my tablet, clambered back into bed. Where's Lily? I asked, the question escaping before I could stop it. Tiffany rolled her eyes, without looking up from her apple. Didn't you tell her to take out the trash? I didn't dwell on it, just settled into bed, trying to shake off the lingering dread of the nightmare. Sleep eluded me. The horrifying dream replayed on an endless loop in my mind. Lights out. Darkness enveloped the room. Lily still isn't back? I asked, the question hanging in the still air. Probably went scavenging for bottles again after throwing out the trash, Mia's voice echoed from the darkness, laced with that familiar cruel amusement. So broke, why even bother with university? Irritation flared within me. Just stop, I snapped, cutting her off. Will you just drop it? What's your problem, Zara? Mia retorted, her tone immediately turning aggressive. You were the one who asked, weren't you? I ignored her, turning away. Just then, a soft knock echoed through the quiet room. Lily's timid voice followed. I forgot my keys, could someone? I practically leaped out of bed, rushing to the door and flinging it open. Just be more careful next time, I interrupted curtly, cutting her off. I glanced at her as she slipped inside. She looked unwell. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes rumpled. I had no desire to engage in anyone's drama, especially not now. Ignoring Lily's questioning gaze, I retreated back to my bed. Click. 2 a.m. Again, that faint, chilling click of the door unlocking. My eyes snapped open. Footsteps, echoing from the hallway, drawing closer, clearer. Who is it? Can you walk quieter? Ugh, so annoying. Tiffany's voice, laced with sleep-induced irritation, floated from her bed. Then, the tearing of fabric, the sounds of struggle, the desperate, muffled cries for help. Everything unfolding in the exact same horrifying sequence. Even the three of us, our synchronized, chilling silence. This had to be a dream. Another nightmare. I held my breath, squeezing my eyes shut, praying with every fiber of my being to wake up. Thwack. Until the sickening sound of metal piercing flesh ripped through the silence. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. Not a dream. This was real. All of it. The gruesome duet of footsteps and dripping blood resumed, a relentless, terrifying rhythm pounding against my eardrums. My mind raced, desperately grasping for a solution, a way out. Heh, don't pretend to be asleep. I know you heard everything, the man's voice slithered through the darkness. On my bedside table sat a thick Oxford dictionary, heavy as a brick. Maybe I could use the dictionary to strike him? Please, let me go. I won't say anything. Mia's voice, trembling with terror, pleaded for her life. In my bedside basket, there was a stainless steel thermos. Perhaps I could use that too? Something solid, something to fight back with. Thwack. The sound of the knife again, plunging into flesh. Yes, the thermos. Harder, more impact. The chilling trio of sounds, footsteps, dripping blood, and my own frantic heartbeat, filled the room. Holding my breath, I reached out, slowly, cautiously, towards the bedside basket, trying to grasp the thermos. Suddenly, a hand clamped down on my wrist, a vice-like grip. Slick, warm liquid oozed onto my skin, sticky and sickeningly familiar. Tiffany and Mia's blood. I nearly vomited. The bed curtains were ripped open. A pair of eyes, pupils dilated to an obscene size, stared down at me. Eyes burning with predatory excitement. Heh, did I wake you? In a surge of adrenaline, I swung the thermos upwards with all my might. But his knife was faster. Moonlight glinted off the silver blade, a flash of unholy light. Thwack! I jolted awake again. Tiffany's fruit knife slipped in my hand, the blade narrowly missing my finger. Once more, I was back in the dorm room, just before lights out. Zara, you're a psycho, you know that? Stop jumping around and scaring us, Tiffany snapped, her voice laced with irritation. Shut up. My thoughts were still a chaotic jumble, fear and confusion battling for dominance. She hadn't expected such a sharp retort. She froze for a moment, then exploded, leaping to her feet, rage contorting her face. You're always moping around the dorm, face like thunder. I used to ignore it, but who do you think you are, pulling faces at us? We're roommates. Is it going to kill you to give us a smile once in a while? I'm not pulling faces. I don't want anything to do with you guys, I retorted, my voice tight with tension. Mia jumped in, her voice laced with venom. You guys? Who are you talking about? I don't have time to argue with you right now. I ignored Mia, focusing on the door lock, double-checking that the safety latch and bolt were securely fastened. Then, I grabbed the fruit knife and the thermos, placing them both on my bed, within easy reach. Tiffany, watching my frantic movements, muttered her favorite insult. Psycho. Shortly after, Lily returned. Without a word, I opened the door for her, then immediately re-engaged the bolt and safety latch, securing the door like a fortress. Lily watched my actions, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. I had no patience for anyone's questions, not now. Ignoring Lily's questioning gaze, I climbed back into bed. Curled up under the covers, I stared wide-eyed into the darkness. I couldn't call the police yet. No one would believe me. They'd think I was insane. Only when the man actually appeared would calling the police be of any use. To fight off sleep, I cranked up the volume of my music, the lyrics echoing in my ears, as if in the darkness, I dreamed of daylight's shadow, surely I will fall from here. Click. 2 a.m. The door clicked open again. This time, it wouldn't work. I swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. I had bolted the door, engaged the safety latch. He couldn't get in. I reached for my phone, intending to call the police. But the screen remained stubbornly dark. Dead battery. Of course. Playing music all night, the battery was dead. But then, a far more terrifying realization washed over me. The footsteps. They were still there. Echoing from the hallway. Drawing closer, clearer. My fingers tightened around the fruit knife, the cold metal a small comfort in my clammy hand. How was this happening? I had bolted the door, engaged the safety latch. How was he getting in? No normal person could pass through a locked door, through solid walls. Was he not human? Was he a ghost? Panic seized me, a cold wave of terror washing over me. The same sounds of struggle and desperate cries, the same chilling silence from my roommates, the same gruesome duet, then trio, of sounds. My mind shattered, fragments of fear and disbelief swirling in my head. What was happening? How was this happening? Heh, did I wake you? My head snapped up. The man was there, standing at the foot of my bed, having pulled back my curtains. He stared at me, eyes gleaming with manic excitement, his rancid breath hot on my face. Who are you? How did you get in here? I managed to choke out, my voice trembling despite my efforts to remain calm. The man tilted his head, a confused expression flickering across his face, as if surprised by my question. Why are you killing people? I pressed, desperately trying to reason with him, to break through the madness in his eyes. Huh. He blinked, as if just waking from a dream. I killed people? Stop. You've killed 2 people already. He stared blankly, uncomprehending, his eyes holding a disturbing, childlike innocence. Slowly, carefully, I reached under my pillow, my fingers closing around the fruit knife. I had to act first. I had to strike before he did. If I could pierce his carotid artery, it would only take 3 minutes. 3 minutes, and he would be dead. Well, I've already killed 2. What's one more, he said, a chilling, unsettling smile spreading across his lips. In unison, we both raised our knives. Silver blades glinting in the dim light, mirroring each other. Thwack. I was too slow. I woke up again. This time I didn't hesitate, didn't care if they thought I was crazy. I threw on my shoes and ran, bolting out of the dorm room and down the hallway to the dorm supervisor's office. Impossible. Impossible. The supervisor cut me off before I could even finish describing the nightmare. Are you under too much stress lately? Maybe you should talk to the school counselor. It's real, Auntie, it's really happening. I saw it with my own eyes. It's happened 3 times already. The supervisor waved me away impatiently, dismissing my terror with a flick of her wrist. All right, see the counselor tomorrow. Curfew's almost here, hurry back to your dorm. I stumbled out of the office, a wave of dizziness washing over me, my head throbbing. Lily was just returning. Hurry, I called out to her, grabbing her arm and pulling her along. Dorm's about to lock up. What took you so long? Lily stammered, avoiding my gaze. I thought I'd wait until Mia and Tiffany were asleep before going back. Otherwise, I'll just have to listen to them, talking about me. What did you do to them? I don't know. Lily mumbled, her voice barely audible. Maybe it's just because I'm easy to pick on. I'd always believed that the pitiful were often also culpable, and my own mind was a swirling vortex of fear and confusion. You're just bringing it on yourself, I snapped, my voice sharper than intended. Don't you ever fight back? Lily started to explain, but I cut her off abruptly. Don't explain. I don't want to hear it. I dragged her back to the dorm room, my mind racing, still gripped by the terror of the recurring nightmare. Once inside, I secured the door again, engaging the bolt and safety latch. Then, just to be absolutely certain, I dragged the heavy, communal table from the common area, wedging it against the door, barricading us in. What are you doing? Lily asked, her voice laced with apprehension. She's just being a psycho, Tiffany drawled from her bed. You'll be putting that table back yourself tomorrow, you know. Mia echoed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Stop making a fuss, Zara. You're keeping everyone awake. My head was pounding, the throbbing pain almost unbearable. I was on the verge of exploding, of unleashing a torrent of pent-up rage and fear. Lily tugged gently at my sleeve. You can't win with them, she murmured, her voice soft and hesitant. What's wrong? She asked, her eyes filled with concern. Nothing, I mumbled, rubbing my temples, the pain intensifying. It felt like my skull was about to split open. Lily watched me, her brow furrowed with worry. She reached into her desk drawer and pulled out 2 small pills. Ibuprofen, she offered quietly. I took them, relief flooding through me at the simple act of kindness. Thank you, I whispered, swallowing the pills dry, hoping, praying, that something, anything, would break this terrifying cycle. Darkness pressed in, heavy and suffocating. My eyes were wide open, strained, fixed on the faint glow of the digital clock on my desk. I was a statue, every muscle coiled, waiting for the inevitable, 2 a.m. Time stretched, each second an agonizing eternity. My consciousness began to fray at the edges, drifting, blurring. Just as I felt myself slipping under, a piercing scream ripped through the silence. Fiona. My blood instantly turned to ice. how had he gotten in? This time, there hadn't even been the telltale click of the lock. And the table, surely pushing the door would have dragged the table across the floor with a loud scrape? With trembling fingers, I pulled back a sliver of my curtain. The table was back in its original position against the wall. Perfectly aligned. How was this possible? Was he truly something not human? There was no time to unravel the impossible. The gruesome trio of sounds, footsteps, dripping, and my frantic heartbeat had already begun. Instinctively, I scrambled to the far side of my bed, pressing myself against the wall, as far away from the open space as I could get. As he approached my bedside, a desperate gamble surged through me. With every ounce of strength I possessed, I yanked the bed curtain down. The fabric billowed, enveloping him, hopefully blinding him, at least for a precious moment. Seizing the chaos, I leaped from the bed, adrenaline coursing through my veins, and sprinted for the door. The hallway outside was bathed in an eerie, pale moonlight. Freedom. It was so close. My fingers brushed the cool metal of the doorframe, grasping, almost there. Then, my foot slipped. Something slick and viscous coated the floor beneath my bare feet. Blood. I went down hard, sprawling onto the cold tile. A massive, calloused hand clamped around my throat, squeezing the air from my lungs. Trying to run, are you? Trying to escape? His voice, a guttural rasp, dripped with cruel satisfaction. Then, the cold bite of metal against my skin. Again and again and again. As consciousness faded, the last image seared into my mind was a pair of blood-soaked feet, planted firmly on the floor beside me. I gasped awake, heart hammering against my ribs, drenched in a cold sweat. Something was fundamentally broken in this loop. Something crucial I was missing. Some detail I was overlooking. My head throbbed, a relentless, pounding ache that threatened to split my skull. I paced the small confines of the dorm room, agitation fueling my frantic movements. What am I missing? What am I missing? He shouldn't be able to get in. It's impossible. Perhaps my increasingly erratic behavior was finally registering with Fiona and Mia. For once, Fiona's usual sharp tongue was silent. Are you okay? She asked, a rare note of concern in her voice as she reached out and touched my forehead. Are you feeling sick? Mia chimed in, her tone surprisingly mild. You've been practically living in the library lately. Are you pushing yourself too hard? You should come back to the dorm earlier, Mia continued, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. This dorm building is so isolated. We do worry about you, you know. Mia's been messaging you every night at 10. Worry? Or were they worried I was outshining them, jeopardizing their precious scholarships? Yeah, okay, I mumbled, my mind still racing, barely registering their words. Seriously, Zara, what's wrong? Fiona pressed, her usual flippancy replaced by genuine inquiry. Just a headache, I lied, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. Here, I have some, Fiona offered, surprisingly helpful. She produced 2 pills from her small bag. Ibuprofen. I swallowed the pills gratefully. The throbbing in my head eased slightly, and with it, a sliver of clarity returned to my thoughts. These endless loops had proven one agonizing truth: alone, I was powerless. Escape was impossible. But 4 girls, united against a single man, maybe, just maybe, there was a flicker of hope. The question was, how to make Mia and Fiona believe me? How to convince them I wasn't completely insane? I chewed on my fingernails, anxiety gnawing at me. Then, a desperate idea began to form. Tiffany, could we switch beds? The words tumbled out before I could fully process the thought. Tiffany blinked, confusion clouding her features. Switch beds? Why? I don't know how to explain it. But there's going to be a killer, at 2 a.m. He'll break into our dorm. He's going to kill us. Switching beds, it's to protect you. Zara, you're scaring me, Tiffany whispered, her voice laced with fear. What is actually wrong with you? I ignored her bewildered question and simply climbed into her bed, ignoring the clutter of her belongings. I was operating on a terrifying hunch, a desperate gamble. My death seemed to be the trigger, the starting point of each horrific loop. I retained the memories of each cycle. Those who died before me, they lost those memories. My desperate plan, I needed to die before Tiffany and Mia. If I could fall victim first, they would inherit the fragmented memories, the chilling knowledge of what was to come. They would finally believe. Lily. Lily remained a question mark. She never seemed to retain the loop's memory. Perhaps because she was always gone when I woke, perpetually scavenging outside. Or perhaps she was somehow outside the cycle entirely. Tiffany remained unconvinced, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Mia, however, panicked and insisted on calling campus security. The security officer listened to Mia's frantic explanation, then, with a weary sigh, dismissed her with a curt "sounds like you girls need to relax," and hung up. "Please, Tiffany," I pleaded, my voice raw with desperation. "Just trust me. Just this once. Afterwards, I'll wash all your sheets, I promise." Tiffany stared at me for a long, silent 3 seconds. Then, with a hesitant sigh, she nodded. "Zara, whether you're serious or completely lost it, you are seeing a doctor in the morning. First thing." Yes, absolutely," I agreed, nodding eagerly, relief washing over me in a weak wave. Lily returned, slipping quietly into the dorm. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, taking in the strange scene of me in Tiffany's bed. I repeated my desperate, unbelievable story one last time, laying out the chilling premonition, the looping horror. Her eyes widened, pupils dilating with fear. "No way." She breathed, a mix of terror and disbelief. "It's real, Lily," I said, my voice unwavering, steeling myself for what was to come. "Lily, I don't know if you've been caught in the loop before. But if you are this time, please, just protect yourself." The moonlight outside cast long, eerie shadows across the dorm room floor. All 4 of us lay in our beds, eyes wide open, staring into the oppressive darkness, waiting. 2 a.m. arrived with chilling punctuality. The click of the door unlocking, the soft padding footsteps, the heavy, ragged breathing, it was all happening again, precisely as I'd foreseen. "Heh, pretty girl." That chilling, warped voice sliced through the suffocating silence of the night. A sliver of curtain was pulled back. I saw them again, those monstrously dilated pupils, burning with predatory anticipation. He fixated on me, his gaze locking onto mine, drawing closer. Hot, fetid breath washed over my face. Did I wake you?" Before he could lay a hand on me, before the inevitable violation, I lunged, raising the knife I'd clutched tightly beneath the covers. But his blade was faster. Always faster. Thwack! Pain exploded through my chest, sharp, searing, agonizingly real. But through the agony, a strange, twisted sense of triumph bloomed within me. The loop was starting. They would finally understand. They would believe. All I had to do was wake up again. The warm, golden glow of the desk lamp, the comforting sound of water filling the foot bath, the mundane dialogue of the drama playing on my tablet, Mia's triumphant victory, cry as she won her game. But the expected, familiar scene never materialized. Instead, screams tore through the darkness, Fiona's shriek of terror, Mia's desperate pleas for mercy. The sickening duet, then the gruesome trio of sounds erupted once more, engulfing the room in horror. What was happening? Why hadn't the loop reset? Why was it continuing? With a desperate, agonizing effort, I forced my blurring vision to focus. Through a haze of pain, I saw it, Mia and Fiona, being brutally cut down, one after the other. Then, the man turned, his blood-soaked figure moving towards Lily's bed. I closed my eyes, hot tears streaming from the corners, tracing burning paths down my temples. She could have been spared this cycle. She could have remained untouched. It was all over. All my fault. All my fault. All my fault. Zara. 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 Muffled voices, urgent, frantic, swam into my consciousness, pulling me back from the abyss. Fragmented thoughts, scattered like broken glass, slowly, agonizingly coalesced. I forced my eyes open. My vision swam, then cleared. Fiona and Mia were standing over me, their faces etched with fear, their eyes wide with a dawning horror. I gasped, bolting upright in bed, sending the foot bath flying, water splashing across the floor. Sorry. I mumbled to Mia, automatically apologizing for the spilled water. Forget about that. Mia snapped, her voice sharp with urgency, cutting through my disorientation. We're in it. In what? I asked, still struggling to grasp reality. The loop. We're in the loop. The loop. They were in the loop. It finally registered. They believed. They remembered. We had a chance. A real chance. I grabbed their hands, clutching them tightly, tears streaming down my face, words failing me, overwhelmed by a wave of relief so intense it was almost painful. Fiona's voice, usually laced with sarcasm, was now raw with a fierce determination. This time, she declared, her jaw set, we are going to kill him. I nodded, tears still flowing, but now tears of hope mixed with the lingering terror. Everyone grab anything you can use as a weapon, I managed to choke out. Right. Mia sprang into action, rummaging in her closet, emerging with a pair of dumbbells. Bought these for working out. Guess they're getting a different kind of workout tonight. Tiffany, surprisingly resourceful, grabbed a bottle of her fancy skincare toner and began furiously mixing it with chili oil from the mini fridge. DIY pepper spray, she announced grimly, brandishing the makeshift weapon. I have a fruit knife, I said, holding up the small blade I'd been clutching. And I've got a proper kitchen knife. Lily's voice, surprisingly firm, joined the fray. We gathered our makeshift arsenal, a grim collection of household items transformed into instruments of defense. A shaky, desperate smile flickered across my face. A fragile seed of confidence began to sprout in the barren landscape of fear. I need to find Lily, I said, pushing myself to my feet. I raced down the stairs, heart pounding, and found Lily huddled near the overflowing trash bins outside the dorm entrance, knees drawn up to her chest, shivering in the cold. Lily, I said softly, kneeling beside her. Are you in it? Lily looked up, her eyes wide and filled with a mixture of fear and disbelief. I don't know why in the previous loops you died after me but still lost your memory, but this time, you're in it, right? You remember? Lily nodded slowly, then, with a choked sob, threw her arms around me, burying her face in my shoulder. I felt her body trembling uncontrollably. It was so awful, Zara, so awful. Why do we have to go through this? I stroked her back, trying to offer some semblance of comfort. It's okay, Lily. We're in this together now. All four of us. We have a chance. Even if. A dark thought flickered through my mind, images of blood and death flashing behind my eyes. Even if not all of us make it out alive, it's still better than all of us dying, right? Who will live? Who will die? Her voice, suddenly sharp, cut through my reassurances. Her large eyes, unnervingly intense, were fixed on mine. I don't know, Lily. It's impossible to say. It'll be me, she said flatly, a chilling certainty in her voice. They'll sacrifice me. They always have. They've always bullied me. In danger, they'll throw me to the wolves first. The words hung in the frigid air, heavy with truth. I wanted to say, no, that's not true, but the denial felt hollow, meaningless. Then stay out here, I said, a new plan forming in my mind. It might be safer outside. I started to rise, to head back inside, towards the dorm room, towards the impending confrontation. Lily's hand shot out, gripping my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. "You're leaving me here? Alone?" I shook my head, guilt twisting in my gut. The image of my blood-soaked feet flashed in my mind again. Fifth loop. If I had chosen to help Fiona and Mia then. Maybe, just maybe, the nightmare would have ended then. Maybe my cold indifference had sealed our fate. I couldn't be a bystander anymore. I couldn't be indifferent. A familiar, sickeningly sweet, metallic stench wafted from the overflowing trash bin beside us, catching in my throat. I frowned, a chilling realization dawning. "Stay safe, Lily," I said, my voice low and urgent. "I have to go back." The three of us huddled together on the tiny dorm room balcony, the biting winter wind whipping around us, a silent vigil. We waited, weapons clutched in our hands, for the devil to arrive. 2 a.m. Click. The door latch gave way. Then, a heavy thud, the unmistakable sound of a dumbbell connecting with flesh and bone. Arg! A guttural roar of pain and rage ripped through the silence, the man's voice. Mia, Tiffany, and I exchanged a quick, fierce glance, adrenaline surging. We tightened our grips on our knives and charged back into the dorm room. Chaos erupted. The room was plunged into a brutal, desperate melee. The heavy, sickening thud of blows, the rasping breaths of the man, the metallic tang of blood filling the air, the frantic cries of our own terrified voices. Moonlight streamed through the window, painting the pristine white walls with grotesque splashes of crimson. 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3. To hell with his gruesome duets and trios. This time, we would orchestrate his final, deserved solo. In the desperate, life-or-death struggle, the man's movements grew sluggish, his grunts weakening. Finally, with a combined, desperate surge of strength, we plunged our knives into his neck, burying the blades deep. A spurt of hot blood splashed across my face. The man's eyes rolled back in his head, and with a final, shuddering groan, he crashed to the floor, a lifeless weight. We collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling, drained, numb. The adrenaline receded, leaving behind a raw, throbbing ache that seemed to emanate from the very marrow of our bones. We won. Tiffany's voice was a ragged whisper, barely audible. Then, her legs buckled, and she crumpled to the floor. It was then I saw it, the dark, spreading stain of blood blooming across her abdomen. Mia and I were no better off, both of us riddled with cuts and bruises, our clothes soaked in blood. "Ambulance, we need to call an ambulance," I gasped, pushing myself to my feet, every movement a searing agony. I staggered towards the desk, towards the phone. 2 centimeters, 1 centimeter. My fingertips brushed the cool plastic of the phone. Just as I was about to grasp it, another hand snatched it away. I looked up, relief flooding me. "Lily. Lily," I sighed, a weak smile trembling on my lips. "Call an ambulance. Please. Thank you." She stared down at me, her face an impassive mask, her eyes unreadable. She didn't move. A cold dread, colder than the winter wind, washed over me. Tiffany, her voice weak but laced with panic, snapped, "Lily. Don't just stand there like an idiot. Call an ambulance. We're going to die here. You should die here." Lily's voice, flat, devoid of emotion, sent a shiver down my spine. She bent down and picked up the blood-soaked knife from the floor. We were trapped. Splayed out like fish on a butcher's block. Helpless lambs awaiting slaughter. Lily turned first to Tiffany, the knife glinting in the moonlight. "Making me buy your food all the time," she hissed, each word a venomous barb. "Was I your servant?" With each word, she plunged the knife into Tiffany's body. "Giving me your leftovers, the food you didn't want," she continued, her voice rising, cracking with a long-suppressed rage. "Was I a dog to you?" Blow after blow, a brutal, relentless assault, until Tiffany lay still in a widening pool of blood. Then, Lily turned to Mia. Mia scrambled backwards, whimpering, her eyes wide with terror. "Spare me. Please." I beg you. Spare me. Spare you? Lily's laughter was chilling, devoid of humor. She traced the blade of the knife across Mia's cheek, a slow, deliberate caress. Why should I? Because you always made fun of me for being poor? Because you constantly ridiculed me? Because you always locked me out of the dorm, leaving me to freeze in the hallway? Die, you bitch, she spat, and plunged the knife down. Blood splattered across her face, but she didn't flinch, didn't even seem to notice. She wiped it away with a careless swipe of her hand and turned towards me. I never bullied you, I stammered, my voice trembling, pleading. I never mocked you. Please, Lily, let me go. Never bullied me, never mocked me, and you think that means I should let you live? She asked, a chilling amusement in her voice. But I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you doing this to me? I cried out, despair and confusion warring within me. Indifference. Indifference isn't wrong, is it? She screamed back, her voice breaking, raw with pain. Why did you just stand there, watching them bully me, knowing it was wrong, and say nothing? Why did you remain silent when they mocked me? Not even a simple stop it, Zara? Why did you always just coldly observe, letting me endure everything alone? I stared at her, speechless, her words hitting me with the force of physical blows, each accusation a searing brand on my conscience. Huh? Zara, say something. Zara, she sobbed, collapsing to her knees in front of me, burying her face in her hands, tears streaming through her fingers. Even once, just once, if you had offered me a word of comfort, I wouldn't have felt so utterly alone, so desperately sad. Zara, no snowflake in an avalanche ever feels responsible. Indifference is the greatest sin. And why did you have to make me take out the trash that night? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have met him. Zara, do you even know what he did to me? She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper, her hot breath ghosting across my ear. And in that moment, as she leaned in, that familiar, sickeningly sweet, metallic stench wafted from her, the same scent that had clung to the trash bins outside. A connection sparked in my mind, a horrifying understanding clicking into place. I woke up again. Fiona was ranting, her voice laced with hysteria. Damn it. Back here again. Is this never going to end? No freaking ending? I'm going insane. Do you remember what happened in the last loop? I asked, my voice tentative. No, Fiona said, shaking her head, frustration etched on her face. Don't remember a thing. Weren't we supposed to take down that killer? Did we succeed or what? Mia, you? Mia shook her head, her brow furrowed. Nope. Nothing. Their reactions confirmed my terrifying theory. My death was the starting point of the loop. Those who died before me, before the loop restarted, lost their memories. Those who died after me, like Lily in the previous loop, retained them. Lily knew. Lily had always known. In fact, this was her plan. All of it. But she hadn't anticipated one crucial detail: her own death was the reset point. When Lily died, the loop restarted, bringing all four of us back. I moved to Lily's desk, pulling open her drawer. I rummaged through the clutter, searching, my fingers closing around a small bottle of pills. Just as I suspected. The ibuprofen she'd offered me, it wasn't ibuprofen at all. It was sleeping pills. That explained why I'd fallen asleep in one loop, the loop where everything had gone so horribly wrong. It was while I was unconscious that Lily must have disabled the door lock, removed the safety latch, moved the table barricade, and let the killer in. I laid out my horrifying realization, the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place, revealing Lily's chilling plan. Mia burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Fiona's face contorted with rage. That little. She set us up. I'm going to kill her. When she gets back, I swear, I'm going to rip her limb from limb. Enough. I shouted, cutting through her furious outburst. Fiona and Mia both stared at me, startled by my sudden vehemence. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the frantic beating of my heart, softening my tone. Tiffany, Mia, I said, my voice low and steady. All of this. It's because of how we treated Lily. Because of our toxic dorm dynamic. She hated you too for bullying her, hated me for standing by. And doing nothing. So she gave the killer the key, offered herself as bait, as a twisted exchange, to let him take revenge on us. But the killer, he lost control, went too far. He killed her too. In the last loop, we managed to kill him, but we were all badly injured. Lily came back, and while we were helpless, she finished us off. And then, in my rage and grief, I managed to kill her, and the loop restarted. I looked at them both, my gaze unwavering, each word deliberate, heavy with gravity. There's only one way to break this cycle. All four of us. United. Together, we have to kill the killer. Only then will the loop stop. Without your help, just Lily and me, we're no match for a grown man. If Lily and I die, we'll be trapped in this nightmare forever. But, when did Lily give him the key? Fiona asked, her brow furrowed, confusion clouding her anger. When did she even have the chance? Oh, no. Mia's voice was a choked sob, despair washing over her face. It was when Zara told her to take out the trash. She'd already gone. It's too late. A cold dread washed over me. For a frozen moment, I stood paralyzed, fear gripping me. Then, adrenaline surged. I snatched the fruit knife from the desk and sprinted, bolting down the stairs, the urgency of the situation propelling me forward. The biting wind of the deep winter night whipped through my clothes as I burst out of the dorm building. Fiona and Mia pounded down the stairs behind me, their footsteps echoing in the desolate night, a desperate, frantic rhythm. Another trio of sounds. But this time a desperate race against time. Faster, faster. I had to get there faster. Please, God, please, I prayed silently, a desperate plea echoing in the hollow chambers of my heart. Let us reach Lily before it's too late. We searched frantically, scouring the area around the dorm building, our breath clouding in the frigid air. Finally, near a low, crumbling wall, we heard it, a faint, muffled sound carried on the wind. Please, please, let me go, please. Lily's whimpers, laced with terror, drifted towards us, faint but unmistakable. She was there. Cornered against the wall. Her clothes were ripped, torn, hanging in shreds. A tall, dark figure loomed over her. Lily! I screamed, my voice raw, desperate, cutting through the night. Zara! Help me! Zara, please help me! The man turned slowly, his face emerging from the shadows, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. I saw him clearly then, the killer. But, he wasn't holding a knife. Not yet. I sprinted towards them, fueled by adrenaline and terror, and launched myself at the man, throwing all my weight, all my desperate hope, into the collision. He was tall, but gaunt, weak. The impact sent him staggering backwards, off balance. In that crucial, fleeting moment of disorientation, Fiona and Mia arrived, knives raised, their faces contorted with a mixture of fear and fury. Together, we surged forward, a furious, desperate wave of retaliation, plunging our knives into the man's body, again and again and again. Lily stared, frozen, watching the brutal scene unfold, her eyes wide with shock. Lily! Don't just stand there. Help us! I screamed, my voice hoarse, desperate. Lily seemed to snap out of her trance. She scrambled to her feet, grabbing a jagged chunk of broken brick from the ground. And then, she unleashed her own fury. She raised the brick high above her head and brought it crashing down on the man's skull. Again and again and again. Light blows, heavy blows, frantic blows, measured blows. This was his solo now. His final, deserved solo. Those who make the music must also endure the music. Finally, the man's ragged breathing ceased. His body went limp, collapsing to the ground in a lifeless heap. Exhausted, trembling, we sank to the ground, collapsing beside the fallen body, our breath coming in ragged gasps. Snowflakes began to drift down from the dark sky, soft, silent, ethereal. I closed my eyes, the throbbing pain in my body a dull ache, but a profound sense of peace settled over me, a fragile calm amidst the storm. I could hear the wind rustling through the bare branches of the trees, a gentle, whispering sound, soft as a flute. "Lily," Fiona said, her voice barely above a whisper, raw with emotion. I'm so sorry. I never realized. I never understood how much I hurt you." "Me too," Mia murmured, her voice choked with tears. "I'm so sorry, Lily." Lily stared down at the man's lifeless body, her voice distant, hollow. "When I went downstairs to take out the trash, he dragged me over here. Afterwards, all I could think was, it's all their fault. All of you. If I was going to suffer, then you should suffer too." I gave him the key. I told him about you, about the 3 pretty girls in the dorm. I wanted revenge. She buried her face in her knees, her body racked with sobs. "I'm sorry, thank you. I'm so sorry." "Lily," I said softly, reaching out and gently touching her arm. "It's over. It's all over now. Don't think about it anymore. I don't know if we can ever fix things between us," I continued, my voice quiet but firm. "But at least, for this one moment, the 4 of us, we were united." Fiona paused, then spoke, her voice surprisingly gentle. I promise I'll never ask you to do things for me again, Lily." Mia added, her voice small. And I won't make fun of you anymore. And if you ever need money, just ask. Please. Scavenging through trash bins, it's not safe." I extended my hand, palm up, towards them. They looked at me, hesitant, confused. Let's shake hands," I said, a fragile hope blooming in my chest. Hesitantly, they reached out. For hands, bloodied, bruised, but reaching, connecting. For hands clasped together, a fragile, imperfect circle. Snowflakes settled on our joined hands, cold, yet somehow, strangely, warm. The end.